Yes, hello. There are two men. They're lurking behind our houses, in the backyard. They're all in black. It's Barefoot Bay, off of Egret.
Barefoot Bay, got it. Can you see what they're doing?
They just scattered. I think they saw me. They're running. One of them just disappeared into the woods. Oh my God, is that a helicopter?
Stay inside. Lock your doors. We have units and a K9 in the area. We will handle it.
There are creatures that have roamed this earth for millions of years, living fossils that inspire both terror and morbid fascination. We build our homes on the edges of their ancient territories, thinking we've conquered the wild. We put up fences, pave our roads, and install streetlights, believing we've tamed the land. We call it Barefoot Bay, a place where the sun always shines, where the water is calm and the living is easy, a quiet, peaceful slice of Florida paradise. But beneath the surface of that peaceful veneer, in the murky depths of the canals and retention ponds, a primeval force lies in wait. It's a world where the old rules still apply, where a single fatal mistake can change everything. A story of a young man, a foolish decision, and a creature from another time. A story of a chase that started with flashing blue and red lights and ended with a silent, terrifying moment in the black water. This is a story about a predator that doesn't hunt for sport or revenge. It hunts because it must, and when the line between human and wild is crossed, there's no turning back, no escape. The police chase ended, but the real hunt had just begun, and for one young man, it would be a hunt he couldn't win. Matthew Riggins was just 22 years old. He wasn't a monster, wasn't a hardened criminal. He was just lost. Born in the Sunshine State, he was a product of the Florida landscape, bright, a little wild around the edges, and always looking for a shortcut. Growing up, he had a reputation as a prankster, a kid who loved to push boundaries, to see how far he could go before he got caught. That impulsive streak, that need for a thrill, would follow him into adulthood. He was charismatic, had a quick smile, and a way of making people like him despite his flaws. He worked a few odd jobs, but nothing ever seemed to stick. The grind of a 9-to-5 desk job was suffocating to him. He was a free spirit, a wanderer. He had a girlfriend, a life he was trying to build, but his past kept pulling him back. His record wasn't clean, a few minor offenses, nothing major, but enough to make a steady career difficult. He wasn't a career criminal, not by a long shot. He was just a kid in over his head, caught in a cycle of bad decisions and impulsive acts that seemed to be a constant echo in his life. He was a son, a boyfriend, a person with dreams and ambitions, no matter how misguided. He just had a knack for finding trouble. Or maybe trouble had a knack for finding him. His bond with his girlfriend was a lifeline. She was a constant, a source of stability in his chaotic life. She saw the good in him, the person he could be, not just the one he was. He'd talk about getting his life together, of finally straightening up, but the pull of easy money, of a quick score, was always too strong. He was living on the razor's edge, balancing the life he wanted with the life he was living. It was a dangerous game, one that he had played many times before and had always managed to get away with. Until the night of November 13th, 2015. That night was different. He was with an acquaintance, another person looking for the same kind of easy score. The plan was simple: slip into a quiet community, Barefoot Bay, where everyone was a little too trusting, and grab whatever they could. A quick smash and grab, no one would be the wiser. They were dressed in black, silent shadows in the Florida night. They believed they were invisible, untouchable. They had done their homework, or so they thought. They knew the layout of the streets, the darkness of the unlit backyards, but they didn't know about the watchful eyes, the vigilant neighbors who had seen too many incidents just like this one. They were about to learn that in a place like this, everyone is a security system. And when the first 911 call was made, the game changed. It was no longer a simple burglary. It was a pursuit. Let's talk about the beast. This wasn't just any alligator. This was a monster, a true apex predator, the American alligator to be precise, found all over the southeastern United States, but thriving in the lakes, swamps, and canals of Florida. They are ancient creatures dating back millions of years. Their reptilian eyes, cold and unblinking, have seen it all. They are survivors, perfectly adapted to their environment. This particular alligator was a male, a true specimen of its species. Measuring a colossal 11 feet long, it was a living tank of muscle and scales. Its weight would have been close to 500 pounds. A full-grown adult male, its territory would have been fiercely defended. Alligators are territorial, especially the large males. They patrol their domains, their dark eyes scanning the surface of the water, their powerful jaws ready to snap shut on anything that moves. They are masters of the ambush. They can remain motionless for hours, submerged just below the surface, only their nostrils and eyes visible, a silent shadow waiting for a moment of weakness. Their hunting strategy is brutal and efficient. They don't give chase. They wait. They lie in ambush, often near the water's edge. A sudden explosive lunge, a powerful bite, and then the death roll, a violent spinning motion designed to disorient and drown their prey. Their jaws are packed with dozens of razor-sharp teeth, but their power lies in the crushing force of their bite, one of the strongest in the animal kingdom. They can snap bones with ease. While alligators generally avoid humans, especially in populated areas, they are not to be underestimated. They see us as an easy meal if the opportunity presents itself. A small dog, a cat, or a person who ventures into their domain. Warnings are everywhere in Florida, on signs, in public service announcements. Don't feed the alligators. Keep your distance. Stay out of the water. These aren't just suggestions. They're a matter of life and death. And this particular alligator, this 11-foot behemoth, had claimed its territory. And on that night, Matthew Riggins stumbled into it. The chase was on. A police K9, a German shepherd trained to track, was released into the dark. Its handler gave the command and the dog was off, its barks echoing in the humid Florida air. A helicopter, a Brevard County Sheriff's Office bird, took to the sky, its powerful searchlight sweeping the ground below. From the air, the world looked like a black-and-white movie, a grid of streets and houses, interrupted by dark patches of brush and the glint of water. Matthew and his accomplice split up, a common tactic for suspects on the run. The accomplice managed to evade the search, melting into the night. But Matthew was not so lucky. The K9 was on his trail. He could hear the barks getting closer, the unmistakable sound of the dog's relentless pursuit. He ran blindly, his heart pounding in his chest, the adrenaline surging through his veins. He wasn't thinking rationally. He wasn't thinking about the consequences of getting caught, only about the desperate need to escape. He reportedly made a frantic call to his girlfriend. "I'm being chased by the cops," he gasped into the phone. "I'm hiding. I'll call you back." That was the last time she would ever hear his voice. He had to disappear, to vanish into the night. And the most logical place to hide, the one place the K9 couldn't follow, was the water. He saw a lake, a dark, still expanse. It looked like a perfect refuge, a desperate final choice. The K9's barks grew closer, a chilling, insistent sound. The helicopter's searchlight was a giant eye sweeping the ground, getting dangerously close to his position. He made the choice. He went for the water. He plunged into the murky depths, believing he was escaping one danger, only to find himself in the hunting ground of another. The K9 reached the water's edge, barking furiously. The dog's handler, seeing no one emerge, assumed the suspect had crossed the lake or found another escape route. The chase was called off. The helicopter peeled away. The sirens faded into the distance. Silence returned to the night. But for Matthew, the silence was more terrifying than the noise. He was treading water, trying to keep his head low, to remain unseen. He felt a chilling sensation, not from the water, but from something else. A presence. He couldn't see it, but he could feel it. The cold reptilian stare of a predator, sensing a disturbance in its territory. He had escaped the police, but he had run straight into a trap set not by man, but by a creature that had been waiting for a moment just like this for millions of years. The exact sequence of events that unfolded in the dark, Black water of that Barefoot Bay lake will never be known with perfect clarity. There were no witnesses. There was no video footage. There was only the chilling, silent testimony left behind in the final resting place of a young man and the stomach of a monster. We can only reconstruct the horror from the grim forensics. Matthew Riggins must have been treading water, trying to catch his breath, the adrenaline slowly subsiding, replaced by a cold dread. The sounds of the chase were gone. The distant sirens, the thud of the helicopter. He thought he was safe. He thought he had won. He didn't realize he had merely stepped from one hunt to another, a much older, much more brutal one. The alligator, the colossal 11-foot male, was a master of stealth. It would have approached silently, a dark log-like shape just below the surface, its eyes and nostrils barely breaking the water. Matthew, a young man from the city, would never have seen it. He might have felt a sudden cold current, a ripple in the water, but by then it would have been too late. The attack would have been explosive and swift. Alligators are not like sharks who might circle their prey. An alligator's attack is a violent, sudden assault, a burst of incredible speed and power. The water would have erupted. A sudden lunge, a set of monstrous jaws filled with dozens of teeth would have clamped down with unimaginable force. The bite pressure of an American alligator is in the thousands of pounds per square inch. It's enough to crush bone, to tear through flesh and muscle with ease. Matthew would have felt a searing, agonizing pain, a shock that would have paralyzed him, a moment of pure, primal terror. The struggle would have been brief. The gator would have pulled him under, and then the real horror would have begun. The death roll. The gator would have spun violently in the water, a dizzying, churning vortex of motion. The purpose of the death roll is to dismember prey, to tear off limbs, and to drown the victim. Matthew, caught in that violent spin, would have been completely helpless. The gator would have pulled him down into the dark, murky depths of the lake. The attack, from the first bite to the final, chilling silence, would have lasted only a few minutes. Matthew Riggins would have drowned, not from exhaustion or panic, but as a direct result of the alligator's attack. His body would have sunk to the bottom, a new and permanent resident of the beast's domain. The alligator, its ancient hunger sated, would have retreated into the depths, the silence of the night returning as if nothing had ever happened. The morning after the chase, Matthew's girlfriend reported him missing. The police, having lost the scent the night before, launched a search, but the trail was cold. Days turned into a week, and then into 10 days. A community on edge, a missing person case with no leads, then a chilling discovery. A resident walking by the lake, the same one Matthew had entered, spotted something strange floating in the water. Something unnatural. It was a body, bloated and discolored from days in the water. The Brevard County Sheriff's Office was called in. A dive team was dispatched to the scene. The news spread like wildfire. The missing man, found. But the recovery wasn't simple. As the dive team prepared to enter the water, a massive shape emerged from the depths. An alligator. An 11-foot-long muscular reptile, its cold eyes fixed on the divers. It was aggressive. It circled the area where the body was floating, a clear sign of territorial defense. It was protecting its kill. The divers couldn't go in. The scene was too dangerous. The police knew they had to act fast. A trapper was called, a professional experienced in dealing with large, dangerous gators. It was a grim necessity. The trapper arrived and, with the help of the sheriff's deputies, managed to capture the massive reptile. It was a tense, dangerous operation. The gator was a powerful, violent creature, not giving up its territory without a fight. But they finally secured it. The alligator was euthanized, a somber but necessary act to recover the body and to determine the cause of death. With the gator neutralized, the dive team was finally able to recover Matthew's body. The sight was horrific. The body was badly decomposed, and there were massive injuries, clear evidence of a violent struggle. A crime scene investigator from the sheriff's office described the scene. The chilling realization of what had happened slowly dawning on them all. The puzzle pieces were falling into place one by one. The frantic phone call. The last known location in the woods near the lake. the K9 stopping at the water's edge, the aggressive gator. It all pointed to one terrifying conclusion. The story of Matthew Riggins and the Barefoot Bay alligator exploded in the media. It was a sensational, macabre tale that made headlines across the nation. "Would-be burglar eaten by alligator," the headline screamed. The public reaction was a mix of morbid curiosity, grim satisfaction, and a chilling sense of schadenfreude. Here was a criminal, a bad guy who had met a fitting, almost poetic end. The comment sections on news articles were a cesspool of cruel jokes and dismissive remarks. He got what he deserved. Nature's justice. Don't swim with the gators. It was a brutal, dehumanizing reaction, stripping a human being of his life and reducing him to a punchline. The formal investigation, however, was far more somber. An autopsy on Matthew Riggins' body was performed. The medical examiner confirmed the worst fears. The injuries were consistent with an alligator attack. But the ultimate cause of death was drowning, a direct result of the gator's violent underwater assault. The forensic evidence was undeniable. The autopsy report was a grim document, detailing the massive wounds and the final moments of a young man's life. But the most damning evidence was yet to come. The necropsy of the 11-foot alligator was performed by a wildlife expert. It was a difficult, stomach-turning procedure. The expert's report, when it came out, was chilling. The contents of the gator's stomach were examined, and what was found was undeniable. Human remains were present. The tissue, the bone fragments, they were all consistent with the injuries found on Matthew's body. The DNA was a perfect match. Investigators, with the help of the medical examiner's report and the wildlife necropsy, were able to definitively conclude the sequence of events. Matthew Riggins, attempting to escape a police pursuit, had entered the lake to hide. He had made a fatal error, a decision that sealed his fate. He had entered the territory of an ancient and deadly predator. The Brevard County Sheriff's Office closed the case, the official conclusion chillingly simple. Matthew Riggins drowned as a result of an alligator attack. There would be no trial, no criminal charges. The only justice was nature's, swift and final. The aftermath also included the grief of a family. Matthew's girlfriend, his mother, his friends. To them, he was not a headline or a punchline. He was a person they loved. They had to mourn a son, a boyfriend, whose life ended in a way no one could have imagined. They had to read the cruel comments and face the media circus. The story served as a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the thin line between civilization and the wild in Florida. Protests were not held, but discussions were sparked in the local communities about how to handle gators, how to manage the coexistence between man and beast in a landscape that belongs to both. The police, while sympathetic to the family, also had to address the facts. Sheriff Wayne Ivey was quoted in the media, confirming the sequence of events and the final conclusion. He was stoic but firm, stating that Riggins had placed himself in a perilous situation and that the end result was a tragic but unavoidable consequence of his actions. The incident was a perfect storm of bad decisions, bad luck, and a brutal dose of nature's reality. A young man, running from one set of laws, ended up breaking the oldest law of all, the law of the jungle. So what is the final lesson from the dark waters of Barefoot Bay? Is it a simple tale of cosmic justice, a moral parable for those who would break the law? Or is it something more profound, something more terrifying? The story of Matthew Riggins is a chilling reminder that we do not own the land we build our houses on. We merely rent it. We build our suburban communities, our manicured lawns and golf courses, right on the edge of a world that is older, more brutal, and far more patient than we can ever comprehend. We forget that the wild is always just beyond the fence line, waiting. And sometimes, in the dark, in a moment of panic and desperation when we think we've found a safe place to hide, we step over that line. The sirens fade. The helicopter flies away. The human chase is over. But the predator is still there, its cold, unblinking eyes watching from the depths, and it's always hungry. The lake, once a peaceful part of a quiet community, is now a silent tomb, a testament to a final, fatal mistake. The alligator, a true king of its domain, went on to live for a short time after its act, its actions a simple instinct. It didn't hate Matthew. It didn't judge him. It just hunted. And in the end, it was the final, silent judge of a young man's life. The story began with a police pursuit, but it ended with a force far older and more indifferent than any law enforcement. And in the murky, dark water of a Florida lake, Matthew Riggins found a final peace, a grim and silent reminder that in some places you can run, but you can never ever hide. Not from what's waiting for you in the water.